Hiya folks, stay tuned to the end of this video for a very special announcement. Today I am coming to you from Prague in the Czech Republic, and just yesterday we had the event there in Prague, a kind of meditation day, and that was the poster that they put out for it. Kind of neat. This area of Prague that I'm in that you can't see, you can just see the bookshelf of the Lotus Center. This is not my bookshelf, by the way. This is the Lotus Center bookshelf. This area is central Prague, and Prague has changed a lot since the first time I was here in 1974, when my dad worked for Firestone Tire Company in Nairobi. He got, I think, twice a year home leave, and my dad wasn't real interested in going back to Ohio for home leave. Instead, he arranged these trips for us all through Europe. The whole family would go through Europe. And the only Iron Curtain country we stayed in was Czechoslovakia, which was what it was called then, and we went to Prague. And in those days, it was a communist country, and not a lot of tourists were here. And it was I remember being kind of shocked at how quiet the place was. There were no advertisements anywhere, which sort of made it a little bit otherworldly when you're used to seeing billboards all the time and storefronts with stuff in them. There wasn't any of that. Nowadays, Prague is a big, big tourist area. And the area of Prague that we're in is the biggest tourist area of all of Prague. So they were having some kind of a, I don't know what, some kind of a festival out here yesterday. There was bands playing with a giant sound system and stuff. There were people going by on these kind of, I don't know what you call them. It's like these bike bars. Maybe that's what you call them. They're like you get like 10 people with pedals that move a bicycle forward. It's bizarre. Anyway, there were people going around on them all night, mostly groups of drunken dudes who were singing together. At one point during the meditation retreat, I could hear a bunch of them going around singing Wonderwall, and then a little bit later, another group, or maybe it was the same group, was attempting to do Rock the Casbah, which none of them knew the words to except Rock the Casbah. So it was sort of like, rock the Casbah, rock the Casbah. And they're all from England too, or most of them. There's a lot of English people around here because apparently it's cheaper to fly to Prague and drink than it is to drink in London or Glasgow or well, Glasgow's not in England, but anywhere in the UK apparently. That's the story I heard. So, what do you do about that? If you're doing a meditation retreat and you're in a noisy place, or you're just doing your zazen at home and it's not a particularly quiet spot. Dogen does advise in his Fukan Zazengi that zazen should be done in a quiet place. But sometimes we don't have access to a quiet place. So I thought I'd give you my kind of philosophical take on the thing. I think silence is everywhere. Silence is there even in the noisiest place you can imagine, because silence is the floor, is the bedrock, is the ground to everything. So if you think of it this way, think of a floor and you put a cushion on top of the floor. Well, the floor is still there even when the cushion is on top of it. Let's say the cushion is noise. And even if we piled 1,000 cushions or 100,000 cushions on top of the floor and garbage and trash to where you couldn't even see the floor anymore, the floor would still be there. So that's kind of a metaphor for the way I think of silence. I think that silence is always there even when there's noise layered on top of it. And when I have to practice in a place that's really noisy, like we did yesterday with all the bicycle dudes walking around and the band playing and all this stuff, I'm sitting there trying to find the silence that's underneath all of that. The other trick that I've found helps is, the old phrase, it goes in one ear and out the other. I found out yesterday that phrase exists in the Czech language too, because I asked. is to kind of try to let the sound go in one ear and out the other. By that I mean just let it go by and try as much as possible not to attach to it, or not to resist it, not to enjoy it, or not to kind of give into it, but just let it pass through. Again, you're going to have a better time doing Zazen if you do it in the quiet, but if you don't have the option to do it in the quiet, that's what I do often, and often I do not have the option of doing Zazen in a quiet place. That's been my life for the past 30 some years of being a Zazen practitioner. The thing about noise and excitement and stuff, I was thinking about this when I went to a Kiss concert a few years ago. And of course, a Kiss concert is full of lights and explosions, and Gene Simmons breathes fire, and the music is ridiculously loud. And to me, it's all kind of there to, in a way, it is the noisy entry to silence. I know that sounds like stupid Zen cliche, but I feel like the point of all that, or this is kind of what struck me at the time at that concert, was to provide an experience that there was so much going on, so many flashes of light and bursts of sound, that you had no choice but to remain present with the event. So you couldn't escape it, so you have to be present. And I kind of felt like maybe that's what these kind of concerts are about. Because our perceptive system is attuned to that. If a light flashes in your eye, that could signal danger, that to your animal sort of mind. So you got to look that way, and you got to pay attention. And if there's a loud boom, in the wild, if you're walking in the woods, you're going to pay attention to that. So all of these things that happen in a typical sort of rock concert or a movie or these kind of events that are very exciting are the kind of things that force a wild creature to remain present. And I think that's what they do for us. We're forced to remain present because there's so much going on. And the pleasure of those events derives largely, I think, from the fact that you are totally present in the experience. So what we're trying to do in the quiet is trying to remain totally present in a situation in which normally we aren't totally present. Normally we kind of drift off when we're in a situation that isn't very loud or isn't very flashy or isn't very exciting. And in Zen, we are providing a space both physically and psychologically or whateverly that is as quiet as possible, and trying then to experience it the way you would experience, say, a Kiss concert or something that was much more exciting and much more drew your attention in. There you go. There's 2 bits of philosophy for the day right here from the Czech Republic. I am continuing my tour, and here are the places I will be, and all of these are open to anyone who wants to join, so please join, and you can find more information at hardcorezen.info/events. And here's my big announcement. As I'm traveling through Europe, I am reading chapters of my forthcoming book, Letters to a Dead Friend About Zen. There's a whole backstory behind this book. 2 close friends of mine died when I was on tour in 2014, and one of those friends, I keep a diary, and I wrote this sort of letter to one of my friends who had just died in that diary. And that became the basis for this book, which is ostensibly a series of letters written from different places in Europe to my dead friend. And I've been reading chapters, or the various letters, to audiences here in Europe and taking a kind of a Q&A session after each one, and it's been going really, really well. So I'm going to continue that when I get back to Los Angeles in July, and so anybody who comes to the Angel City Zen Center in July will be treated to an exclusive reading from my book, which won't be out until October, so please come and join and listen to that, and we'll have a Q&A session after each one. Once that is finished, I'm going to start a podcast called Letters to a Dead Friend About Zen, and each podcast will be a newly written letter to my dead friend, not one from the book, but a newly written one. And we'll have a group discussion after the letter, and we'll just do as many episodes in that format and see how that goes, and maybe we'll alter the format after a while, but it'll be I'm hoping it'll be a weekly podcast right from the get-go. And so all of you who've been asking me to do a podcast, there's you got your wish. I'm going to start doing one at the near the end of the year. Probably we'll release it around the same time as the book comes out in October. A book and a podcast with the same name. We'll cross promote each other. It'll be great. So enjoy that. Look forward to that. That'll be fun. And that's all I got. See you later. Remember, donations in PayPal and Patreon are still important to me because I'm getting some Czech crowns while I'm here, but it's mostly just to spend while I'm in the Czech Republic. And I still depend on those donations. So thanks a lot. See you later. Bye. How's that?